Hello, welcome back to another week of the NRL Supercoach Talk Draft Waiver Wire podcast. It's Chris and Simon back again for another week. It's the round 18 edition this week. How you going, mate?
Oh, mate, been struck down by the dreaded man flu. It's been life or death for me over the last 4 or 5 days. But as the blokes will know, it's you gotta stay strong and try to not die, pretty much.
try to not die. It sounds like life's been going really well for you, mate.
No, life's good, mate. Just the man flu, mate. Not flash and not used to being sick. So, but footy will be back. Obviously, Origin look forward to on tomorrow evening, mate. Can't wait for that. Obviously, optimistic Queensland can at least avoid the clean sweep, but not necessarily pleased to see DCE's name back there. And I don't know. For me, I would have thought, even though Ash Taylor's not been in great form, as evidenced by that game against the Bronx, I still think he's the future with that kicking game of his. So, anyway, good go Queensland.
Yeah, it's an interesting one, mate. For Queensland supporters like ourselves, it's just a good time to sit back and just try and analyse what could be for this team and where they're going in the future. I think that the Ash Taylor call, I'm personally glad he didn't get selected because I think he isn't quite ready yet, but to see DCE's name read out, that was just brutal, absolutely brutal. I've had some mates on Facebook who are Titans fans actually put their tickets up for sale as soon as they saw that he was named to wear the number 7. So those cuts pretty deep for Titan supporters. So it's just an absolute travesty to see him in there, but it just seems like a huge step backwards.
Is he really that good, mate? Like, yes, when he's on and he's bobbing and weaving and doing his thing, but I don't know, mate. I think he's got to have a very good team around him to be an effective player, personally. And I don't think this, obviously the difference in talent and stuff between the two, New South Wales and Queensland this year, I don't think that he's going to have it his way. But, mate, the stage is set for him to come out and prove all us doubters wrong. And whether we like him or not, this could be his game, could step up. So we'll see how he goes.
Yeah, like I was just touching on before, it's when you look at the current Queensland side, we just have so many players who can play 5'8", but no one who's a real leader at halfback. We just got Michael Morgan when he's fit, Milford, Munster, all pretty much 5'8" players. I know Morgan did have that stretch for the Cowboys in the number 7, but I just don't know if that would translate over to Origin level. So, Ben Hunt, obviously he's not the answer, and I guess it only leaves DCE and Ash Taylor, and I just said that I just don't think Ash Taylor's quite ready yet. So I guess he's there by default, DCE. But anyway, it's still good to watch and see how they go. And
so just quickly touch on the Ben Hunt thing. It's a bit of a shame for mine because he has, in my opinion, he has the talent. It just appears that in those big clutch moments, he's just not a clutch player. And as someone like Darren Lockyer proved, who probably, in my opinion, didn't have that extreme talent as some of your other players in the past. Not saying he was a bad player, very talented player, but not the extreme skill set that we've seen, but all-time clutch player. Like the Derek Jeter of the rugby league world. Just when the big moment presented itself, he was there and he was doing his thing, and that's just not Ben Hunt. So maybe that's where DCE can step in. Maybe he'll be the clutch player. So see how we go.
Yep, that's it, mate. All right, let's get into the waivers. As we said at the top, you've been sick. I was actually sick a week there as well when we were meant to do a podcast. So we've been sort of hit and miss with the podcast recently, but we're back for the foreseeable future, and we'll rip into some waivers. For us, our league plays through the buys for those who are sort of newish listeners, and as a result, our league waivers have just blossomed this week. There's so much talent on waivers because, there were some teams going hammer and tong for victories this week, and you were one of them, going hard, dropping some questionable players. So, yeah, what do you make of waivers this week, just as a general sort of sense?
Oh, I'm going to hype it up a little bit. It is a shame we weren't able to, get out some content the last couple of weeks, but to come back and see some of the names that are going to be out there in Waiverland for all you listeners, I mean, get excited, get hyped, get your claims in. There is some talent that'll be startable for you for the remainder of the year and hopefully take you all the way to a final. So, mate, King, let's get stuck in.
All right, mate. Let's rip into the first game of the round, which is the Panthers at home to the Sharks. So let's go straight to the halves with Tyrone May and Jerome Luai. Jerome Luai just absolutely lit it up last week in the bye round, and
wow,
I guess has just made it really easy for Phil Gould and Anthony Griffin to just say to Cleary and Maloney, just take it easy, guys, have another week off. We've got these two young kids that we can rely on for the week that we need them.
Oh, tell you what, mate, talk about a succession plan. I mean, you can see why now maybe they thought, Jim Maloney, certainly, I'm not saying it's the end of his career, but, he's at the latter stages. You obviously use him for a couple of years, try and get a sneaker premiership. But when you've got Luai coming behind that, holy dooly, what a young star he is. So very exciting to watch, mate. And you'd have to say, provided he does end up starting in this game, decent upside pick. However, very tough matchup against this Cronulla side who just keep being good in defense, mate. Keep turning up each week.
Yeah, it's a much different assignment this week than having the Warriors who didn't turn up last week. Just did not turn up, the big boys from the Crossbench.
Not at all. I had some very disappointed Kiwi friends out there who they like to let's go on Warriors me every week, and yeah, not very vocal this week gone, mate. Very embarrassing.
Yeah, not good. So in terms of the Panthers, I guess you've also got Waka Blake who come back, who should, I say the word usually because I guess you just don't know with the Panthers backs, but he'll be in the team somewhere in the back line. Just depends on will he stay at centre or will he go to wing once Mansell returns, probably next week. And then obviously Peachy's got, well, let's go into it now. What do you make of the Panthers backline rest of season? What do you think their full strength backline is?
I think you got to say full strength backline versus full strength second row, mate. Like it's a bit up in the air, isn't it? I mean, where does Tyrone Peachy slot in? Is he going to jump back into the centers and obviously push Wanga Blake to a wing, as you said? Then you add Mansell to the mix as well, I think he's back, a couple of weeks away, 3 or 4 weeks away, maybe?
Yeah, well, I think he's sort of touted around 20 as his return date. So
yeah,
probably not next week, but the week after.
I don't know, mate. Like for me, I'd be if I'm relying on one of these sort of apart from Isaiah Yeo is the one guy we know he's locked into that role. Coaches love him. He's actually running as captain at the moment. In the absence of those other blokes. So, but he's locked in. Farah obviously is injury prone, but is locked in thanks to his defense. So outside of those, mate, I would be a little bit nervous with Peachy just loitering on the bench there. Kickow's the one for me, mate. Rest of season, are you certain this man has got that role on the edge locked down? I know he had a big week this gone, but could you see him going back to the bench at some stage?
Yeah, there's no way I'm certain.
No
way. The way he played on the weekend, I mean, it's pretty hard to ignore the way that he played, but he was doing this exact same thing at the start of the year and he found his way back on the bench. So
I'd sell high. I absolutely would. I know if you okay, this is a couple of ways to look at it. If I was playing him as a front rower, I might just take my lumps and just keep playing him because obviously front row is incredibly shallow this year and having an upside player there is great. So even if he's on the bench, he's still going to be better than most front rowers. But if you got that rare spot where you're playing him as a back rower in your side, I potentially would be selling high right now.
Gee, I tell you what would the scenario need to be for you to be playing as a back rower? I feel like that would be a massive strategic mistake.
Oh, more than likely, mate. I think I'm just covering that. Like in that scenario, I should say I would definitely be looking to sell high. But across the board, because of that uncertainty with Peachy there, I'd be thinking about a sell. I really would. I'm not saying selling cheap, but I'd look to get something back.
Oh, if that's right. If you're going to shop him and you find someone that you can go and get for that, I do see it. I know what you mean.
Yeah. As for Tyrone Peachy, is he a waiver claim this week for you, mate?
That's hard. Geez, that's hard. Probably, but I don't feel that committed to it. Like they seem to really like Wonga Blake in the centres, and Farah we know is just not moving because he's defensively just too good.
Yes.
Mansour will come back to one wing for sure, which only leaves the other wing open. And
yes.
that means that Peachy pretty much has to play centre and push Blake to a wing. I mean, I guess if it was really push and shove, they could name Farah on the wing and Peachy at centre, and then when the game actually comes, they could defend Farah inside Peachy in defence and then switch them over in attack. But yeah, I don't know. I think Peachy gets shafted too many times.
I'm going yes. No, I'm going yes. I think this is one of those things. I think the fact that even Hook or Griffin has, potentially looking like he's trying to rest him this week. I think this Panthers side, this is ready just to crush it on the run home. And I think with Peachy playing Origin, obviously, pardon me, being in a winning side, I think this is like, let's give him his chops. He's going to get a spot. He's going to get 80 minutes in the centres. I'm on board. I think he's a waiver claim.
Okay, so you think Wonga Blake's going to go to the wing then is basically what that means?
Pretty much. I think that's the only scenario I can see. Or, in fact, Kickout or Fisher Harris aren't getting as many minutes as they have been. But with Harawira Naira on the bench, who obviously looks great. What a luxury to have off the bench, by the way. He comes in to spell the back row. So I think it just looks like Peachy jumps into Wonga Blake's spot.
Yeah. Well, I hope you're right because Peachy, when he's on, he's one of the best guys to watch and also have for fantasy. So, yeah, it's this late in the year. I guess you may as well spend your waiver.
Yep.
All right, on to the Sharks. Now, Valentine Holmes wouldn't have been dropped through buys because he's just been killing it. Same with Jesse Ramey, and he'd still be there. But Edric Lee has been surprisingly good.
Can't get on board, mate. Can't do it. Edric's regular listeners will know that he's one of those players that people will pick up and he'll go well for them. But the moment that you think it's your turn to have a ride with someone of his sort of ilk, you'll put him in there and he'll score you 12 points and you'll never do it again. So Edric is well on that run for me. However, looking at the stats, I can see why you'd be tempted. So I guess as a forced CTW, knock yourself out, but he's not one I'll be picking up.
Not a waiver, no.
No, I can't do it.
Okay, what about Matty Moylan? I guess I'll sort of lump him in with Wade Graham because Wade Graham's been out in and out of the side all year. Moylan has just sort of been up and down in terms of form, so he could easily been dropped as well. For some reason, he was held in our league. So yeah, I don't know. I wouldn't have held him, but what do you reckon in terms of waivers?
Yeah. Look, the 5'8" eligibility. I haven't looked at Matt Moore almost all year, to be brutally honest with you. He's 5'8" eligible, isn't he?
Yeah, he's still fullback 5'8".
Yeah, I thought he would be. So I'm going to say again, yes, waiver, mate, because especially 5'8" is so thin. And if you had to drop a 5'8" during the bye round, and he's definitely he's a startable option in 10-team leagues. Am I super excited about Matt Moylan? No, but he's definitely waiverable. Wade Graham, you mentioned, he's been very poor this year, and I think it's just due to him being a bit underdone injury-wise. I don't have, even though he's a big name and he's been decent, sort of a 55 average in the past, I don't think he has to be waived. Free agent pickup and bench stash, sure.
See, I'd probably go a bit further on Wade Graham. I just think he's a no-go this year. I could not start him ever.
Yep.
So for that reason, there's no reason why I'd even waste a bench spot on him because he has shown an ability this year, and I say an ability when it's not really something you want to be known for, but anytime he starts a game, he has got leave after 20-minute potential with injury or concussion or anything.
He's definitely struggled this year, hasn't he? Definitely underdone. I agree with you. That's why there was a bench stash, mate, to hope that he comes into some form like towards the back end of the year. So say he did roll a couple of 80-minute games together, then I can see him potentially being startable down the track. But I'm not going to argue super hard. Like I wouldn't say go out and get him.
Yeah, look, you might be right, mate, but like he's second row only, and there's just so many second rowers. Geez, there's some second rowers.
There are. No, I agree with you.
But yeah, it's like I personally I wouldn't be spending a waiver on him, I guess. But
no, I agree with you on that.
Sorry, we didn't mention Kurt Capewell here either. He's still in the second row with Luke Lewis probably another week away. So,
nah.
I mean,
too much uncertainty, mate. That chops and changes so much. You got Bakuya sniffing around there, just signed a new 2-year deal this week. So, you know, Bakuya can easily come in on game day, and I'm not interested.
Yeah, righto. On to the Newcastle Knights at home to the Eels. Another nice game here that your boys could win, mate.
Well, you want to hope we're a shot, especially with Pearce coming back, which is good to see. Obviously, no Ponga makes it a bit scary. Not the most potent looking back line you'll ever see. Just
mate,
quietly.
That 1-5 is pretty shit.
Oh, that's particularly savage. Like with Sione not exactly being a speed merchant this year. It doesn't make for pretty reading either defensively or in attack.
No. Like the thing with your Knights is the back row is as solid as, but everything else, the two front rowers and the back five.
I'll leave Daniel Saifidi out of it, mate. He's back this week. I like Daniel Saifidi.
Oh, you do like Daniel Saifidi.
Lee can leave Josh King out of the equation. I won't defend Josh King.
See, mate, I think you've got your fantasy blinkers on with Saifidi. He's not a good defender in real life.
Can bump off a tackle pretty easily in arm grab. I will give you that. I presume that's what you're talking about.
Yeah.
I agree. But it is actually like with Herman being in the back row there. The back row is fine, and I don't mind. Like Danny Levi, he's fine. I prefer him not being an 80-minute player though. Which could he be in this setup, or is potentially Nathan Ross going to come on for some weird, that chopping, changing role we see in the NRL these days?
I just assume Buehler will come on a dummy half, won't he?
Okay, I keep forgetting Buehler. It's not inspiring, that particular part of the Buehler game, but yeah, fair enough, mate.
I might even go as far to say I could see a last-minute swap on game day, Levi bench, Buehler start at hooker.
Fair enough.
Which would just be
anyway, mate. Fantasy-wise, Mitch Pearce is the obvious one there. I don't think Connor Watson would have been dropped, and then I think really it's Mitch Pearce is about the only. I guess if SESE was dropped, but he probably wouldn't be because he's one of the top-ranked front rowers this year.
Yeah, I don't think SESE would be out there. I mean, if he is, go get him for sure. But I'm not going to sit here and pretend that he'd be widely available.
No. Mitch Pearce, though, mate, I know his stats won't look that flattering, like about a 47, 48 average, but he did start to look really good just before his injury.
Oh, mate, halfbacks, how brutal is halfback this year?
It's awful, mate. Absolutely awful. Probably, I'd say it's statistically, just top of my head, I'd say it's the worst we've seen since you and I have been playing.
Oh, it'd have to be. I mean, SJ is head and shoulders number one, and even for SJ is still SJ, but he's still probably not quite at the peak of his powers at the moment.
No.
But he hasn't got to be. He's still clear. What's that?
JT dropping off so significantly this year, like there's just almost no reliable options. If you can find a guy that churns you out 50 a week, like you're pretty happy at the moment.
Well, who would you have as like the top 6 or 7 halfbacks?
Wow. I feel like it's going to be SJ and Blanket, to be honest. I've quickly scanned through these options. I mean,
is DCE still second?
Bunt, probably. Bunt still. I still think Bunt will have some big games on the run home, so probably Bunt.
Yeah.
And then I think you're talking a massive Blanket from there, aren't you? Is there anyone else?
Well, Moses Mbai is interesting.
Good one. Moses probably deserves a bit mention above maybe that next Blanket.
Like, I think Moses Mbai is every bit a part of that conversation, if not at the top of that conversation.
Well, Cleary's still there, but he's not goal kicking. So
of course.
he's taken a hit from his stock as well.
Yeah, sorry, no, I forgot about Cleary. I'd still take him high up there though.
I'd probably still take Cleary above DCE and Bunt, I think, but that not like with any great. They're all in sort of a category of their own, I think.
Cleary's one of those guys that you, if you own him, you're just going to ride it out with him because there's zero people to trade to, and if you don't own Cleary, he's really hard to try and go and acquire because obviously he's still got that name.
Well, that's the other one. Like if you're a Cleary or a Maloney owner. You kind of, not that you wish an injury on anyone, but if either of those two go down, you've got yourself like a top 3 halfback. It's just funny how that works.
But Maloney's, he's only 5'8", isn't he, this year?
Oh, he is, of course. So you don't even get that. So if you're in the halfback sense, so Cleary is your big one. If Maloney went down somehow, touch wood, hope he doesn't, Cleary's value just goes through the roof. So, yes. Tubbard's bread, the landscape of halfback, Matt, it is brutal. So, congrats to the Sean Johnson owner who won't be feeling it after he probably lost them bye weeks last week. But you're going to have a guy at least who's going to have a chance of winning you some games on the run home. And people like me who busted on Moses and got Pierce injured and traded away Adam Reynolds, and it's been a mess for me, absolute disaster. So.
Mate, you're definitely not alone. You're definitely not alone. I can't. I'm sitting over here as a Thurston owner, not exactly loving life. So, look, you say SJ winning your weeks. At the moment, 60 from your halfback could be winning you the week. The floor of some of these guys. I mean, holy crap.
Yeah, I'm telling you, the floor is scary. We've seen those 20, very common to see those like 25 to 35 scores, and it's not getting the job done. So
no. All right. So not too much for Newcastle. What about Parramatta? Jared Hayne.
Okay, so Jared Hayne has shown form the 2 weeks prior to the bye. If he's sitting out there in waiver land, has he shown you enough to burn a waiver claim?
Probably not. Good matchup though.
I could low end waiver Jared. He's a momentum player. You've got to think this, you've got Norman. So Norman is back at 6 with Moses, with, Gutherson there. Is this about as good as Parramatta's side gets, apart from Manu Ma'u?
Pretty much, yeah. I'd say so. This is the crux of the side, isn't it? It's just you might see some chopping and changing in terms of positions throughout the year, but that's pretty much the best their team's going to be, I think.
They've got a bit of punch with Penny Terapo on the bench now, at least, which is something, that's the most depth they'll ever be excited about at the moment. So I reckon, yes, I would waiver Jared. Probably more of a low-end waiver claim. I think he's a decent as a fourth CTW. I'm okay with him.
Yeah, fair enough. I'd much prefer the next guy, George Jennings. He's someone we should probably touch on because he probably would have been dropped during buy rounds of teams who got really desperate for a win. Did he get dropped in our league? I don't know if he did.
I think he did actually. I can think of the owner. I think the owner made a very late drop of him to try and push for a win.
Yeah, so he's one you'd be happy with as a fourth. Probably a third. CTW 3, maybe 3-4 borderline. He's pretty solid, George Jennings.
Yeah, he's consistent. I'm okay with that one as well, and the matchup's pretty good as well. So if you need a win this week, he's a recommended fire up for sure.
Yeah. Now, a guy we didn't really mention, Corey Norman in the halfbacks rest of season. He's been going pretty well for Supercoach.
He's very consistent season to season, actually. Corey Norman, he'll average around somewhere between 50 and 55. It seems no matter what role he's playing, and he'll get him. Pardon me, the fact he can get you at halfback, I think he's a very good option.
Yeah, I mean, I guess this, you sort of can sense the way we're talking about this game is I think it's probably going to be a good game for attacking players. Probably not much defence in this game for both sides. So I think if you're really struggling, you can look at all those sort of Eels backs in this one. Just before we move off Parramatta, I suppose, I just want to get your thoughts on this bench. They've got 4 4s on the bench, mate. And Cameron King at hooker. Is King going back to 80 minutes all of a sudden?
He could be. That they do chop and change their hooker minutes a lot.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It could be, mate, but I can't get on board with Cameron King, though.
Yeah, because like with Moroa, Mana, Gower, and Terapo, like unless Nathan Brown's going to go and play hooker for some time in the game, which would be brutal. Weird rotation there. All right. Anyone else you want to talk about the Eels? Or are you good to move on?
Good to move on, mate.
Righto. Let's go on to the Dogs. Now, we're not even going to really give Reece Martin too much mention on the waiver show. He's one that's been picked up for ages. And geez, if you owned Reece Martin, good on you.
or tooting the horn, captain of in Classic. Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. You did too, didn't you?
It's the first captain I've got right all year. Don't take Fantasy Classic advice from me. I struggle.
Bloody hell. That's crazy because here I was about a couple of weeks ago saying Reece Martin, if you own him, you should drop him. And then all of a sudden, Fatala Mariner's out for the year and boom, look at him go.
How it rolls, mate. Your information presented to you at the time was that he wasn't going to get much of a look in, but that's the way it goes.
No,
so
don't listen to what I've got to say is pretty much the moral of the story. Look, this Bulldogs team there's no one here I'm interested in, not even Remus Smith.
Move on, mate. Move on. Not even interested. Nothing there.
Do you want to mention Adam Elliott maybe? Got 60 in 50 minutes last week.
He needs 65 minutes plus, and I think he's a recommended start. But with only 50-odd minutes, I'm not keen.
Yeah. Right then, over to South Sydney. Heimel Hunt got the centre spot taking over from Inglis, and I guess he's someone you could start based on the matchup, but I'm just trying to think if he'll be against Josh Morris or not. He'll be on the left, so he'll probably be up against Holland. So he's probably not a bad starter. Pick up and play, possibly.
Free agent.
Yeah, free agent. I think Adam Reynolds would have been dropped through the bye.
He could be one of those like desperation last minute drops. So yes, and if he has been, he's been improved as his fitness has gone up. So I'm okay. Adam Reynolds he's a top 10 halfback. He's not as exciting as some of the other options, but at least you should be getting a decent floor with him. So I quite like Adam Reynolds.
Yep. Okay, that's pretty much it for South. It's not too much.
Hang on, mate. Dane Gagai would have been dropped in a lot of leagues. I certainly would have dropped him if I was the owner to get a win. What do you reckon? Is Dane Gagai a top 4 CTW starter?
Top in the top.
So I can see at least a CTW 4. Sorry.
Yeah, but barely. He
has been very average this year.
Let me look him up. Gagai, let's have a squeeze. What has he been doing? Probably not too much. I haven't really noticed it. I
do not think that the stats are going to look very good.
No, he's averaging 45 and he scored mid to high 30s 4 weeks running. He's been 39, 34, 39, 37, 40. That's his last 5 scores. He hasn't topped a score higher than 64 this year, which he's done.
Not. Yeah, mate. He's not looking good in attack this year for South. I mean, you're going on faith that he is a gun, obviously, like real life gun. You're going on faith that he's going to come out of Origin and just like go nuts for South. It's a good attacking side, so it's a bit weird that he hasn't just sort of found his way to tries. So I guess if you're going to take a gamble, he's not the worst gamble.
Thing is that Souths just go to the left every single time.
Yeah.
It's almost like when they're in the attacking zone, they do a swing to the left and then they'll sort of run a couple of plays back to the middle, and then they'll sort of take a settler with like Crichton or someone, or a dart from Crichton close to the line, then they'll swing it back left again on like just because they're so potent there. Like why would you not? They've been killing it this year, but unfortunately, it just doesn't seem to go to Gagai's side. It just never gets out to him. So, I probably would waiver, I guess, but it need to be pretty low level. Okay, Manly and the Storm. Now let's go to Manly first. You've got your boy Moses Surley in the centres. You've always been a fan of him.
Yeah. Perfectly acceptable free agent pickup as a fourth CTW for the run home. They'll be easier. This isn't a good matchup, so I don't mind if you don't do it this week. But I think any decent looking attacking matchup, I think he'll start getting some attacking stats as well as a pretty good base.
Now, what about Dylan Walker? Now, we haven't mentioned much of Dylan Walker this year.
We both looked at him, in our preparation pre-potty, and I think he's a very good player, and I think his style is very conducive to super coach scoring. It has to click for him at some point, mate. There's upside in there. I'm going to say if you're going to start him as your fourth CTW for the run home, again, this matchup's bad, so maybe don't play him this week. But I could buy a low-end claim or at the very least a free agent, stash. I do think the more time he gets, hopefully not getting injured and not getting injured, I think you're going to get some good scores out of Dylan Walker. So I'm on board.
Yeah. I pretty much agree with what you're saying, I guess. Definitely not this week. I'm just sort of looking at Manly's run home because with a lot of these guys, depending on where you are in the ladder in your league, you do need to pay quite close attention to the run home based on where your focus is. If you're someone who's pretty much locked up a finals berth, you're probably going to be focusing more on players who have good matchups in sort of rounds 22 to 24. Whereas if you're someone who's just trying to make the top 8 or in our league top 5, if you're trying to get those wins, you're obviously focusing on the more recent games. So for that, depending on where you are, his next couple of games are pretty tough because he's got obviously the Storm and then the Panthers next week, who are pretty good defensively. So his next couple of games don't shape up too well. But I think that later in the year, like in round 22, for example, Manly have the Bulldogs, which you probably want to start him in, and they've also got the Titans and also Wests. So not a bad little run coming up if you can sort of see him out for the next couple of weeks. So probably a good little stash. Anyone else sort of from Manly? What about Sean Lane? Do you have any interest in him?
Tried to get on board earlier in the year, mate, but with that bench, with Tanganoa and Winterstein there, I just feel the minutes. He's not going to get the minutes you need. Low-end starter, sure, maybe like an average of between 40 and 50, but I'm not really on board there. I think I made the crunch call to drop Joel Thompson to try and get a win last week, which was very reluctant because he's been in form the last month or so. So I definitely have Joel Thompson as a waiverable pickup this week too.
Yep. Sounds good. On to the Storm. Now, Jerome Hughes is probably the big winner here.
Absolutely.
Named to start at halfback. It's such an interesting one because, I mean, he has shown that he is really, really good. But halfback is just unusual to see him named there.
That's incredible that for people that just picked up Jerome Hughes' bye week cover, as he obviously was quite good then too, you've pretty much lucked out here. I mean, this is going to be his spot to lose with both Riley Jacks and Brodie Croft failing their additions and the Storm, being the juggernaut they are. This could be his spot to lose. And if you're going to be the starting halfback for the Melbourne Storm, I've got to be keen on him as a fantasy player. So I would even suggest if someone isn't buying into that level of hype about him, he could be a very good pickup for your CTW.
Yeah. I'll tell you what, though. I mean, he was named at halfback last week, wasn't he? Then he was pushed back to fullback in a late switch. I just can't buy this. Like, I know he's been named at halfback a few times, but he's never actually played there, has he? He never actually started a game there for Melbourne.
That's the thing, mate. Like he's gonna be owned by someone already, unless you dropped him immediately or didn't play him in the bye week. I don't know, but he's gonna be sitting there in someone's team. I just think he's an easy stash for this week, isn't he? At the very least, hang on to him. You might be right, mate. I'm having trouble buying it as well, but if he does, I think you got a fantasy starter out of nowhere.
The funny thing is I can say, like, when I say I'm not buying it, I'm not really buying it for this week, and it's actually in a good way. I actually think that and this is going to sound pretty silly because it is, but I actually think that he will go back to fullback because I think Slater will get rested after Origin. So I could see Jax or Croft come in, and I reckon he could just have a lucky number, mate. 7 could be his lucky number.
Fair enough. Well, but yeah, as a starter for this week against Manly, I like him. I think that's a good start.
Yep. J Brom's back as well. Any interest there?
No.
No. Sum that up pretty quickly.
He'd have to put a run of form together before I was even keen. So no.
Yeah. All right. I might just sort of harp on a bit here about the Storm backs. I'm the Vunivalu owner. Will Chambers has made his way up onto waivers in our league, and rightfully so. Curtis Scott is owned, but he wouldn't be too far away from waivers. He could very easily not be. All of those guys just, I don't know what it is for such a successful team, but they are just not performing. And I don't really have any hope for the rest of season either. I've been burnt too many times. Even in good matches.
Isn't it? Like you've got like last week it was bloody Sofa Solomona and Ryan Hoffman turning back the clock with a line break double dummy try on the treadmill, which was quite humorous to watch, I thought. But mate, Vunivalu is barely averaging 40, so I don't know. The name's going to keep him there for you in a good side, and surely some tries come, but it seems that link with Cronk was really important for him. Chambers is just not playing well this year. Origin or Melbourne, it's just not happening. And then Josh Adokar, mate, for all his massive games he's had, boy, has he threw in some clunkers as well. So I don't know. I'm with you, mate. I can't be excited about starting any of those guys, and I certainly wouldn't be putting a waiver claim in for Chambers either.
No, I mean, Will Chambers needs to learn that just because he's playing for a Melbourne-based team, it means he doesn't have to kick the ball all the time.
Yeah.
Like, mate, it's ridiculous how many times he's kicking the ball now. It's crazy. I mean, Vunivalu, he's been needing tries to get to 50 or even 40.
He's injured, mate. He's injured. I don't know what they're disclosing in the injury report, but have you seen how slow he's moving across the turf at the moment? It's not good.
Doesn't look good, no.
It's that knee that's all strapped up. He just looks like he's not moving freely. So he's a real, straight away, provided he goes in, injury-free to next season, he's that obvious buy low or sort of value draft pick going into drafts next year for mine.
Yep. I would agree with that.
Just going to finish, mate. I'm not trying to just weasel way out of, writing off Chambers. I do think he's a very acceptable free agent stash, though, just in case post-Origin with his head, on the game, that he starts going back to that sort of tackle-busting style that's good for fantasy. So I'm okay with a free agent.
Rightio. Okay, on to Canberra. Now, you've got Kotrick at fullback for probably what seems to be the rest of season, I would say. I mean, Brad Abbey, I know he's on out for the season, but now that Kotrick's there, I just think he's just too good a player that he will perform just too well at fullback that Abbey will get a look back in, is my sort of prediction there.
The future is now for Nick Kotrick.
Yes. So, I mean, obviously he's going to be owned, so we're not going to mention much about him, but old Rapana is back, which is crazy.
Rapana. Here he is. He would have been dropped in. I feel so sorry for people that dropped him. Every news outlet we heard, even our good friend, the NRL physio, has suggested that there might have been a bit of a mix-up with the grading or something of that nature, allegedly. He's back. He's back this week. That's crazy. We thought he was done.
Yeah, and the way that he looked when he got injured too made you think it was a really serious one.
What a great matchup for him to come into, mate. Against the Cowboys, down in Canberra, Saturday night. I'm on board. Like, Rapana is my number one claim of the week. I don't even think it's close.
No, I think you're probably right with that. I mean, I know that there's always a risk with players coming back early from hamstring injuries, but with this particular one. I mean, geez, he's just too much of a proven gun. If Rapana's on waivers, you go pick him up. So pretty
I
straightforward.
think as well, mate, to sort of mention there, Canberra's attack has just started sort of kicking into gear in recent weeks. And I think the fact that Big Joey Lelua's found a bit of form as well, I think will sort of feed off with Rapana. And I think he'll come home like a freight train.
Yeah, it'd be good to see. It would be good for the comp if Canberra could go on a bit of a winning run just to try and even if it's only for the last couple of rounds, at least the team that's coming eighth, like the Warriors, it'd be good to see Canberra put a bit of pressure on those teams to start playing a bit better. But
yeah,
we'll have to wait and see. So let's go to the Cowboys now. The Cowboys side is pretty much as is, and there's not many players that are really that interesting for fantasy in their team, really. I mean, Tamalolo and Hess, that's pretty much the extent of their fantasy relevant players.
Pretty much. I mean, for people that are really struggling halfback, Tamari Martin seems to be finding his way to at least sort of a try assist a week and about like a 40-ish sort of, like I think his floor is around about that 40 mark at the moment, which is okay for that reason. For example, he's a guy I may have to look at as a free agent pickup for the rest of the year to pick the right matchups with. So he's okay. He's looked all right. Potentially he's someone they need to keep going well into next year as well with Morgan. So he's okay. That's as far as I can recommend him.
I mean, I've probably been being a bit harsh on Kyle Felt. He's been really good this year, but
that's true.
So he's definitely relevant. But what about your boy Gavin Cooper? Any interest?
What's he doing? I think he's averaging about high 47. Look, there's a lot of good options at 2RF. You could free agent pick up him if you really want to, but not by any means is he a necessity.
No. All right, let's move off the Cowboys and go to the Broncos and Warriors. 2:00 on Sunday here at Suncorp. Now, Broncos team's pretty settled. I guess the big question with the Broncos here is going to be around not so much for waivers because most of these guys are going to be owned, but just the forward rotation and the minutes. How do you sort of see that playing out in this side?
So the only guarantees is that Jaden Sewer's getting his 80 minutes and doing really well with it. Keep firing him up in draft. The big question, mate, is how many minutes Alex Glenn gets. Because if Glenn gets 80 minutes, he's definitely startable in 10-team leagues. But looking at that bench with the very impressive Katoni Staggs, also Off-Ngawe, it's a good bench. This Broncos bench is actually, for real-life purposes, is really good. I can only imagine Glenn's getting something like 50-ish minutes, 50 to 55. Maguire, similar, maybe 50 to 60. So it locks McCulloch into 80 minutes. We can see that. I'm only really thinking that Sewer and Maguire are startable out of those forwards with, I guess, Matt Lodge. He had a pretty good base that week just gone. He's probably low-end startable, but that's really it for mine.
Yeah, it's really difficult. I mean, I think Off-Ngawe and Tavia Pengai Jr. are good players if they could get the minutes.
Yes,
but yeah, I think they're all going to cannibalise each other here, which is a bit unfortunate.
They are. Which again, I think you're agreeing with me there that Sewer and Maguire are really the only two.
Yeah,
that you're excited about.
Yep. All right. Okay, on to the Warriors then. I think there's probably not going to be any real waiver claims for either of these two sides here.
Nothing.
I mean, Jared Beale's named to replace Ken Mamalo, but no. All right, let's move off of them and go to the next game, which is St. George at home to West Tigers. Now, Nightingale's back in for Kurt Mann, so I mean, Nightingale's probably not really the fantasy force that he has been in years past, so he's not someone you'd be wavering for at all. But for the Tigers, you've got Nofaluma back, which is someone you would definitely waiver for.
100%, mate. If Nofo's out there, he's just behind Rapana. Probably pretty close with Peachy and Mitch Pearce for mine. He's on that kind of level of waiver claim. Depending on need, obviously. But he looked, before that injury, he just started to tick along nicely with that sort of high end run meters and high end 8 meter plus runs and tackle busting. So definitely a waiver claim there.
Yep. Corey Thompson got dropped in our league. I'd say he probably would have made his way onto waivers in most leagues as well, who play buys. So I think he's probably worth a low end waiver. I wouldn't be spending a high waiver, but low end is probably not too bad.
Yeah, low end waiver, definitely if you see him there in free agent, he's 100% stashable as your potential for CTW.
All right, and last thing on the Tigers is I just want to talk about Robbie Farah's impact on some of these Tigers forwards. Now, I guess this is pretty much a segment that sort of pertains to Eisenhuth more than anyone else. I mean, it's relevant for all of them, but Eisenhuth probably he's the most fancy relevant, so I guess he's the most important here. But that number 9 spot for West Tigers all year pre Robbie Farah was a shared role. There was always a starter and then someone coming off the bench to spell them. Whereas now that Farah's there as an 80-minute hooker, it really limits the minutes that are going around amongst the forwards that were there previously or earlier on in the year. And yeah, it really lessens the value of your Madalinos and Alex Twals, and somewhat Eisenhuth. Not a huge drop for Eisenhuth, but 5 minutes here and there, possibly 10 minutes, could be a little bit of a problem. So Eisenhuth's probably someone I wouldn't say he's a typical sell high, but I do think his value is probably not going to get any higher than what it is now. I think he's sort of
still like it in the front row. He's a good sneaky front row option, and as a starter for the rest of the year, though, I think you're happy enough with Eisenhuth in your front row.
Yeah, you're probably right. But yeah, depends who you can get, I guess.
It's kind of clever with Cleary, as in Ivan Cleary here, with having Elijah Taylor as your lock. He can afford just to list Farah as an 80-minute player every week, and if anything were touch wood to happen to Robbie, like you could just sub Elijah in there quite comfortably. And with that many back rowers on the bench or forwards on the bench, you could easily cover Taylor's minutes. So this is not the worst looking Tigers side this week.
No, you're right. It's not too bad. They'll probably still get lapped by the Dragons, though, you imagine?
It'll be interesting. The Dragons have been pushed at strange times this year, and with all those players, potentially having to back up from Origin, I wouldn't be surprised for a sneaky upset there.
Actually, I just saw Luciano Leilua on the bench for the Dragons, so someone is out of that side. Must just be because Lathimore's there, Kurt Mann's back to the bench, Mau's still there, and Leilua's onto the bench, but I can't think whose position he's taken. I know Vaughan's there. No, I don't know. I can't remember. Must have been someone relevant like Hame Sele or Blake Laurie or someone like that. Okay, last game of the round is the Titans at home to the Roosters. Now, you've got Connie Hurrell back into the side with Cop Shop out for the year. So, I mean, Conrad Hurrell, is he really a waiver claim, do you reckon?
Depends if your CTW is weak. So, if you're somewhere in, look at where you're on the waiver list. Obviously, if you need a CTW, you're going to put Rapana 1, you're going to put Nofo 2, you're going to put, Corey Thompson versus Conrad Hurrell, mate. I'll ask you what your opinion would be there.
Thompson.
Yeah, I think so too. So Thompson, and then probably, what about Connie versus Chambers?
I'd take Chambers. Better team.
I'll go Conrad just because I think there might be more upside there. And if he does go on a bit of a run, as you know, Connie's a bit of a form type player. I think there's a bit more lottery, sort of winning the lottery upside with Connie there, personally. But it's close. So if you've obviously put in claims for all these other blokes, and obviously we've just said that the Chambers versus Hurrell's close, at that stage, if you're that far down the waiver list, I'm okay with it. Because especially if you're chasing, if you got to get some wins on the board, he's an okay fourth CTW option.
Yeah, I guess you got to spend your waivers, haven't you? At this point of the season, so go hard for it. Not much else for the Titans, I don't think. So we'll move on to the Roosters. Now for the Chooks, Joseph Manu's back in the centres, but we're not really huge fans of him for Supercoach.
Nope.
The real interest, I guess, around the Roosters is Taukiaho, Butcher, and Radley. I guess I'll form this to you in a question about Madison and what you sort of think about Madison rest of season and how it might impact any of those three guys.
I wouldn't be waiver claiming for any of those names. So although Takiyahu has played a bit better in recent weeks, he had that 1 week slightly inflated by Weir Hargreaves being out. Because he's only second row eligible, I'm not excited about Takiyahu. Acceptable free agent pickup, however. Butcher and Radley, sure. 1 week specials, I'm fine with that. It's a really good matchup. They'll probably at least Radley, I think he may well hit some upside. But with Cordner, due to come back next week or the week after, and Madison not too far away, as you see he's named, I don't think either of them are waiverable.
No, you're probably right there. Okay, I don't think I'll be wavering for any of those guys either. Okay, so that pretty much sums up the waivers, mate. How would you rank them? You sort of given us a brief rundown, but what would your official priority list be for this week?
If you need a halfback, go get Mitch Pearce. If you're near the top, any number of waiver claim, I think you're going to have to bite the bullet and just hope that he keeps, going on a run. So Mitch Pearce, 1. If you need the halfback. If you don't need a halfback, the list is completely different. So you're going to have Rapana, clear, head and shoulders number 1, any level of waiver claim, go get him. David Norfoluma, I would probably give the exact same advice. Any level of waiver could completely change your season. Then for mine, you've got I'm interested in Tyrone Peachy, mate. I think he's another one of those, he's got a bit of that lottery value about him. Could be really good for you on the run home in a very good Panthers side. And then you've kind of got more of the blanket over the rest of them. What do you think?
Yeah. Just trying to think of guys that really stick out for me that we've mentioned. I think I'm just trying to have a look back through some of the names. Yeah, no one else really excites me too much. Yeah.
I mean,
I guess I'd be looking at Mansour if Mansour was available.
Okay, like it. I'm on board with that as a stash.
But yeah, that's probably it of the guys that that you didn't mention.
I think, sorry, mate, I did miss one that I know I dropped him. I definitely put Joel Thompson in that list. Probably just either before or just after Peachy is fine. He's not that exciting, but he's still, if you look at his stats this year, he's sort of trending towards that 55 average, which is still very much startable in 10-team plus leagues.
Yeah. I guess, yeah. Do you have any advice for sort of people how you should be managing your waivers this late in the season? Like, what should you be doing, or what should your approach be to waivers this week in particular, now that we're sort of running out of rounds?
This is your week to go ham. So this is in my opinion, this will be the best week. It should be, assuming if your team did play in the bye round, especially, this is going to be a big week where there should be some very startable players that aren't normally on waivers. These are guys that will often be stashed or low end starters that could blow up for you. So go out and get your Peaches, go out and get your Mitch Pearces and your Conrad Hurrells, Jared Haynes, these type of guys, because these could be the ones that blow up to win the rest of your season. So don't be shy this round.
Yeah, I do agree with that, mate. Okay, just before we wrap it up, I just wanted to issue a message to the weekly Rubdown boys that we do owe a bet to after the podcast Origin battle. Next week is going to be the week we're going to get together and record our shoeies, and we're going to read the script next week on the podcast of what they want us to read, which will be very interesting. So shout out to those guys. Next week's the date. You can call us the Lannisters because we always pay our debts.
Beautifully done, mate, and can't wait. All this talk of not enjoying shoeies, mate, I've been practicing in the lead up to this, and really, once you get onto them, mate, you'll never go back.
Yeah, just you and your high heels, just knocking back frothies.
I know I've sent you those snaps, mate. You've seen me in the heels drinking from it. It's very good. It's good for you. Good for your health. So can't wait, rub down, boys. Bring it on, and we'll eat our humble pie after my disgraceful performance over our Origin.
Yeah, sounds good, mate. All right, thanks for coming. Thanks for being on the show, mate. And I'll talk to you again next week.
Cheers. Thanks for listening, guys, and good luck this week.